Alright, and welcome to another video on estate sale finds, estate auction finds. Today we're going to look at something of, if you go to an estate sale or you buy something from an estate auction, if you're buying something directly from the family or from the estate, it can be easier to identify when it comes to military items. But what do you do when you find something at an auction that there's no tie to any family or any estate? You got to look at it a little closer, try and figure out, is it real, is it something that's put together, or so forth. And so that's what we're going to look at today, is what would be a ripstop jungle shirt that I bought a few years ago from an auction in New York. There were no ties to anybody in this auction. Some of the stuff looked like actually it come from a surplus store, maybe. Like there was a whole bunch of different jungle shirts, and a bunch of them would be no patches, no insignia, nothing on them, and then some might have one patch or a name or so forth. And I bought this one here, and as you can see, it's pretty well patched out. But there's a couple of things about it that I think make it look good, a few things that make it seem like, maybe it's something that's put together. So that's what we'll do today, is just take a look at this and try and see. So one of the first things was the name, not the most common name, Whalen. And so I started looking for, trying to identify anybody that had been in Vietnam that was Special Forces with the name Whalen, and then looking at the rank. This would be a sergeant major rank. And when I did that, I did find one person, a Sergeant Major Harry D. Whalen Jr., whose nickname was Crash. And he was apparently, for over 2 years, he was a Sergeant Major for the detachment, for Detachment B-52 Project Delta. He was involved with some of the recon teams with MACV-SOG and so forth. So you may say, well, what is it that I think makes this think this could be a real shirt, jacket, however you want to call it, jacket, shirt. So on this one, it is a person that did have this correct rank, and this is basically the way he would have had his jungle jacket patched out. You know, with the pocket patch for the Vietnamese LLDB, his U.S. Special Forces shoulder sleeve insignia. It said Sergeant Major rank, honorary, South Vietnamese airborne jump wings, combat infantry badge, senior U.S. jump wing qualification. But there are also aspects of it that you'd say, well, is it maybe something that was put together? And why would I think it was maybe put together is the jungle shirt itself is a ripstop one. It's from 1969. And I believe in 68, they started transitioning away from having the rank on the sleeves, start putting it up on the collar. And I thought that was all done by 69. So would a sergeant major wearing a jungle jacket made in 69 still be wearing sleeve rank? I guess it's possible. The other thing is this rank, and even the Special Forces, it all seems like it's supposed to be in-country made. And we can see just a little bit of like some paper backing, which I know sometimes is on, I guess it can be on real insignia, but it also seems to be on things that are fake. So those are a little bit of a concern. It's in really good shape. So if it is real, he wore it very little. Maybe wore it once or twice. Maybe only wore it once or twice because they were transitioning away from having the rank on the sleeves. I'm not sure. But there's also the aspect of, you can find a little bit of information on Sergeant Major Whalen online. He died in 1993. He had been in the Army starting in World War II. I think he was with 11th Airborne in World War II. over his career, he was in the Army for like 30 years. He was awarded Silver Star, Bronze Star, Legion of Merit, I think 2 Purple Hearts, 5 or 6 Air Medals, so forth. So he was highly decorated. But if you look online and you find a mention of him every once in a while, one person that was in Detachment Delta mentioned our Detachment Sergeant Major Whalen being a person who was small in stature. Well, this jungle jacket is a size large. So again, if he was smaller, would he really be wearing a jungle jacket that was a size large? I guess maybe some people would want to wear looser, but again, that seems a little bit off. Now, it could be something that maybe this is something that did belong to him, and he put all this together years later for a reunion. And that's something you got to watch out for on estate sales, is that you may be buying something directly from the estate, but it could also be that that gentleman went to a reunion 10 years before and had a uniform put together that was basically like what he wore in Vietnam. So it's coming directly from that person. It's not something that was faked to try and deceive anybody, but it's not an actual uniform worn in Vietnam. But if you look online, most of the time what you're going to find about Sergeant Major Whalen is the unfortunate that in 1966 he was part of a small recon team that went into Laos, and he was the only survivor. And I believe they were the first killed in action from Forward Operating Base. I believe it was Forward Operating Base 1. And I believe that that's most of the time when you're going to find mention of this gentleman. If you're familiar with John Plaster, who was part of MACV-SOG, I believe Sergeant Major Whalen is mentioned in 1 or 2 of his books, just very briefly. So he's not an extremely well known, but is he well known enough that somebody would have faked this whole thing? Another aspect is, as I mentioned in the beginning, this came from an auction in New York. So I started looking, Sergeant Major Whalen, when did he pass away, or was he still alive? Where did he live? Did he live in New York? Well, he passed away in 1993 in Mississippi. So you're thinking, well, that's pretty far away from New York. But if you look at his obituary, it said he's originally from New York and still had family in New York. So it's possible that this turning up in New York could have been, somebody in the family who ended up with it after he passed away, and it somehow ends up at a surplus store or ends up somehow getting into this auction. So, as I said, there's aspects of it that seem like, okay, this could be legit, and there's aspects that seem like it's probably something put together. So in the end, what do I think it is? I would say that it's something that he put together possibly later on. There are a lot of, when you get out of the military, you'll see that if you were a size small when you were in the military, you may not be a size small 20 years or 15 years after you're out of the military. So that might have been that he may have been smaller, and by the time, if he put something like this together for a reunion, maybe a large is what fit him better. Could be something like that. But if you have a ideal of it, you look at this and you say, oh, that's definitely fake, or you think it's definitely real, or you look at certain aspects. I know some people will look at the stitching on the U.S. Army tape or the name tape and say, well, that's not embroidery like they would have used in that time period. Whatever your comment is, good, bad, feel free to comment below. What do you think? Is it real? Is it fake? And why do you think that? And that way, we can all try and learn a little bit about it and see. I said if it's real, I think it's a very interesting, he has quite a history, and it's something that, I'd like to see preserved. If it's something that somebody put together as a fake, it's a good example to show you know, what's right or what's wrong to show and try and look at other jungle jackets to authenticate. So, as I said, feel free to comment below with your opinion of it, real or fake. And that's going to wrap up this exciting video. If you've enjoyed this video or you like watching videos about different military items found at estate sales and auction, I encourage you to subscribe so that you'll know when future videos are uploaded. On this channel, got about 62 videos, I think. So check those other videos out. As always, thanks for watching.